a sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food, Henry's soul food. What we need, soul food. Henry's soul food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com. Dr. Fleischer, how are you today?
Hello, how are you today?
How was your week since you've been away?
My week has been very lovely. It's been pleasant. Let's see, I attended an interesting meeting on positive aging, and that was very interesting. Let's see, what else did I do of interest?
Positive aging. I thought aging was just aging. I didn't know it needed. Qualifiers to it.
Well, I think there are qualifiers to it, and certainly in all of the interviews that we've done with women around the country, we found that there really are qualifiers. We found women who are aging with a positive point of view. They're living now. They're having very positive thoughts about what they can do and what they would like to do. They keep their minds very open and are very open to new things. And then there are those that are kind of all shut off from the world and kind of closed in to themselves and not willing to acknowledge that anything new can be worthwhile. So that's negative aging, I think.
Sounds like life. Maxey!
How's it going, Armstrong?
How you doing, Maxey? What have you been up to, Maxey?
Just my mom had a knee replacement, and I've just been helping her with that, and she's coming out of the woods and getting my daughter what she needs for school and my son what he needs for school, just kind of doing that.
Busy.
Yes.
How much has music influenced your life, Maxey?
Well, it used to influence my life a lot more. My daughter was in the musical program from nursery through 6th grade, and now she's in 7th grade, and she switched back to a regular school. So I think it influences me a little bit less than it used to.
Alex, how are you today? Because you're going to actually talk today.
I'm doing wonderful, Armstrong.
Oh, yeah, you're going to talk today. Tell us about our guest today from, California? Tell us about our guest. Since you love music, these young people love music. They want to be in studios. They want to create. So he was excited about the guest today. So tell us about it.
Well, our guest today is Margaret Martin, who is the founder of the Harmony Project out in California. She holds a doctorate in public health from UCLA in community health science. And the Harmony Project is an award-winning research-based nonprofit that targets at-risk youth in underserved areas of Los Angeles. They promote positive youth development through year-round music lessons and ensemble participation.
Now speak from the heart.
I speak from the heart?
Yes.
Well, I'm happy to hear about programs like these because, especially back in New York, seeing a lot of the at-risk youth there and going through tours of the public schools, not a lot of students get the appreciation or the chance to really pick up an instrument and start learning how to play. So when I hear about programs like these that start up, that take at-risk youth and give them a chance, it's really heartwarming to know that.
Dr.
they're
Fleischer,
out there.
isn't it so much better speaking from experience than speaking from a script?
Oh, absolutely. And I wanted to say also that when I realized that Margaret Martin was going to be our guest, I looked at the Harmony Project and was very excited about it. I'm very academically oriented, but I love to see programs that try to get at kids through their feelings, through music, through drama, through art, where there is so much in terms of expression about who they are and what they feel. I just think these programs are wonderful, and feel the children are so bereft when so much funding for education first removes the arts.
That
I
is
think
so.
it's a huge loss.
It is. It's so important. And Margaret, I know you just love all this wonderful setup pieces for you. Before we introduce our star guest today.
Well, am I live?
Are you beaming? Of course you're live. Everybody's live.
Okay. Well, thank
We
you
can
so
hear
much.
you.
It's a real privilege to get a chance to talk about my favorite subject, and I thank you for your interest and for giving me the opportunity.
Well, tell us about it. We're all ears.
Okay. Well, as the other gentleman said, I'm a doctor of public health, and Harmony Project is not really a music program. It's actually a long-term mentoring program masquerading as a music program. It's a research-based public health intervention. See, our aim is to help at-risk youth develop the habits of mind and the character traits they need to lead successful lives. And at this point in time, we're kind of failing we're largely failing our most vulnerable kids. We've got a 50% dropout rate in our 50 largest cities. This is why Colin Powell and Ray Chambers formed the America's Promise, because it's a real crisis situation. Dropouts, on average, cost communities about $300,000 in increased social services, loss to the tax base, and incarceration costs that would go away if those kids were able to complete high school and go on to get a college education and live more fruitful and productive lives. So this is our aim in Harmony Project, and what we exactly do, is we connect vulnerable kids with professional musician mentors, 5 to 18 hours a week, year-round, tuition-free, for their entire childhood. We teach them to make music, and we build bands and orchestras with those kids in their own neighborhoods, providing they remain enrolled in school. And most kids wouldn't be interested in signing up who need mentoring, and what kid doesn't need mentoring, really, wouldn't sign up for a multi-year mentoring program. But if you give them the chance to learn music with a professional musician who's fun to be around, and we only hire Pied Pipers, people who like kids and enjoy being with them, they stick in the program for years and years. Over the last 6 years, 96% of our high school seniors have graduated on time in 4 years and have gone on to colleges like Dartmouth, NYU, Berkeley, USC, Tulane, despite dropout rates that approach or exceed 50% in the neighborhoods where they live.
Maxey, what do you say when you hear these startling stats about music and what it does?
Well, having had my daughter in not an at-risk program, but a program, I think it's amazing. I mean, that's one of the charities I support here in the local area where I live, is doing very similar to what your guest, Margaret, is talking. And I think it's amazing. I think it's a needed thing. I think it gets kids interested, and I think it, does exactly what it's supposed to do. But my question is, how do you keep the kids playing the music? Because what I found is kids are not going to go to a classical music base just because you ask them to. They got to want to do it. It's a commitment.
Well, it's interesting that you say this. I should probably preface my response with just a short story about how I came to be interested in getting Harmony Project started in the first place. I was at a farmer's market on a Sunday morning, and there was a tiny kid playing Brahms on a tiny violin. And people were gathered around putting, coins or bills into his little case. And it was a very small child, but he was playing beautifully. And through the market that day came this posse of hardcore Los Angeles gang members, shaved heads, tattooed up, the same uniform, oversized clothing, and people were getting out of their way. When they came up to the child, they stopped, and the child continued to play. And after 5 or 6 minutes, without saying a word to one another, I watched those gang members pull out their own money and lay it gently in the child's case. At the time, I was completing a doctorate at UCLA in public health, focused on what it takes to make a healthy community. And those gang members were teaching me that they would rather be doing what that child was doing than what they were doing. But they never had the chance.
Wow.
That child was my 5.5-year-old youngest son. And for me, in that moment, it was like one of those precious moments in life when it was an authentic moment of grace. It was like the heavens opened and God spoke, and I knew that I had to at least try. And so when I completed my degree, I started this program with 36 extremely disadvantaged little kids in Los Angeles, and one $9,000 check from Rotary Club of Hollywood. That was our kickoff. And a small band of intrepid, optimistic volunteer board members. 8.5 years later, I was at the White House receiving the highest honor in the nation for an arts-based youth program. We have nearly 1,500 kids throughout Los Angeles playing in ensembles of every kind, not just classical music. We have jazz bands, we have salsa band, we've had hip hop orchestras, and we also now have the program in Miami and in New Orleans and up the coast in Ventura, California as well. In Miami, it's the University of Miami's Frost School of Music that sponsors the program. In New Orleans, the program partners with Tulane and local charter schools. In Ventura, California, it's the New West Symphony that sponsors Harmony Project. And in Los Angeles, we partner with LA City College, Los Angeles Unified School District, and 3 other school districts, actually 4 other school districts, and the Los Angeles Philharmonic.
Isn't that an incredible story, Alex, when you hear that story?
It is. Especially
and one of the things that's really exciting about Harmony Project, and by the way, I'm the person that people need to contact if they're interested in starting a Harmony Project program in their own communities. Each of the Harmony Project programs are independently financed in their own communities, but we all form a supportive network. Is that as the kids develop skills on their instruments, we train them to turn around and mentor their less advanced peers through our own service learning program. So we're really building citizens. You know, when I was growing up, I'm old. My kids are all grown. But when I was growing up, we called ourselves citizens. And 20 or 30 years ago, we traded that word in for another word that's got a completely different meaning. But when we refer to ourselves as Americans, we more often use this other word. And it changes everything. That word is consumer. We tend to typically refer to ourselves as consumers. But the most patriotic thing that a consumer can do for their community is to go shopping. And what a citizen is somebody who digs down and gets busy and knows that it has something to do with them and makes a difference right where they are. And that's what we're making in Harmony Project. Harmony Project builds responsible citizens, because in the process of showing up at rehearsals, learning your music, learning to be accountable for the use of your time, and being responsible for helping the others in your section learn the music as well, you develop the habits of mind that will not only help you succeed in music, but in school and throughout your life.
Dr. Fleischer?
Yeah, I was, this just sounds just incredibly inspiring. I was wondering, do you involve the parents in the program at all?
We absolutely do. We, through popular, first of all, we have parent orientations, and both the parents and the students have to sign a contract. The student that they will practice daily, at least a minimum amount of time, and the parent needs to sign a contract that they will provide a quiet, uninterrupted space where that child can practice. And it really does shift the dynamics at the household level, because that means turning off the media. It means paying attention, and we teach parents that they also have to promise that not to make snarky remarks about what the music sounds like in the beginning, because we remind them that before that children learn to cry, they cry before they speak, before they sing. And we have to let them develop and encourage them to put in the effort, because if you put in the effort, and it takes a lot of effort to learn to make music, you will learn and you will develop those skills. So the parents are involved from the beginning, and many of our sites have musicianship classes that engage the parents. We actually have programs for parents so that the parents can learn along with their kids.
Maxey?
Yes, this is incredible. I mean, I know a little bit about what your guest is speaking, because just, my daughter has done some stuff locally at the university here. But again, many people have done, I'm sure you're familiar with the Suzuki program, where a parent has to get involved, etc. And we have a lot of at-risk programs here locally in West Palm Beach that work with all of our public schools. But then it shifts dramatically in middle school to a completely merit-based. You have to be, you apply, to these incredible schools. One is called Bach Middle School of the Arts for 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then Dreyfus, which is the high school. And those two schools are well-known around the country, but again, they're totally merit-based. You have to have achieved, and you have to have a tryout, and I don't know if that knocks out a lot of at-risk kids or what.
It absolutely, you're spot on. You've hit the nail on the head, because most communities throughout the country have lovely youth orchestras, and the kids play beautifully, but those kids are kids who always had access. Yeah. They had access to private lessons and so forth. But the statistics out of the National Endowment for the Arts shows that access to arts education began to drop in 1980, and it dropped just a couple of percentage points for middle and affluent kids, but it plummeted for disadvantaged kids. And here's the rub. We're in the third year of a longitudinal research project with Northwestern University's Auditory Neuroscience Lab. And that lab, you can look at their website, www.brainvolts.northwestern.edu, to learn more about their research. But they've been documenting the neurobiology of learning for the last 25 years. And they have identified a neurologic profile for poverty in children. Specific neurologic functions that are seen to be...
Hold that point, Margaret. We're coming back. Maxey, Dr. Fleischer, Alex, I'm Armstrong Williams. What a fascinating story. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, Stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make 100 million or 10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Elder chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Meals for those around you, quietly struggling with hunger.
Where heads of
Together,
state,
we're feeding
sports,
America.
entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back. Margaret, please continue. So
the Northwestern University's Auditory Neuroscience Lab has been able to document neurologic deficits in kids from extremely poor homes, and you got to read that. The proxy for poor home is low mom's level of education. So there's not a lot of reading going on, the vocabulary is limited and so forth. And the impact on little kids is that specific neurologic functions in the brain do not get developed, so that they are not as ready for school as more advantaged kids. But it turns out that those specific areas, like the ability to focus your attention, auditory working memory, the ability to listen and hear things in a noisy room and remember what you heard, each of those things are things that learning to make music, not music appreciation or listening to it, but learning to actually do it, the discipline of learning to do it, boosts each of those areas that have been identified to typically be reduced in disadvantaged kids. So to test this out, the Northwestern University lab sent neuroscientists to Los Angeles, and we've been running a longitudinal research project beginning with extremely disadvantaged second graders. And we had matched controls, and they did a beautiful job setting up the research. And what the research has shown so far is that the kids who did not participate but who wanted to and were matched to the ones who did, their ability to read declined over the first year. But that's consistent with other research that shows that kids from poor homes are not learning to read in the first 4 years of school. That's important because from grade 5 on, up through grade 4, you're supposed to be learning to read. From grade 5th grade on, you're supposed to be reading to learn. If you don't learn to read up through 4th grade, you're not going to be, nobody's going to be teaching you to read after that. And those are the kids who disproportionately drop out and fill our prison systems and burden our social service systems. So what we discovered was, after just 1 year of Harmony Project music lessons after school hours and on Saturdays, the participants did improve their ability to read, but they also showed significant neurologic improvement in ability to focus their attention and to listen. And that study is continuing with a wonderful support from the National Association of Music Merchants and Los Angeles Unified School District's Beyond the Bell Association organization. So basically, we've got a way to fix this. And I'm not saying that this is the only answer, but we can. Not only are our kids learning the habits of mind they need to lead, to be accountable for the use of their time, and to be responsible, and to lead productive lives, but we're helping them rewire their brains through the discipline of focused sequential music learning.
Dr. Fleischer?
Well, that is extremely impressive. You know, my background is teaching of is language development in children, and that absolutely squares with what I already know. That part of the reason that children do have such difficulty learning to read, children from disadvantaged backgrounds, not only is the deficit of their experience, but also their inability to attend. This is probably just as important. And I can see that learning to focus attention on something that the children love to do would be extremely helpful. What I'm wondering... Yeah, go on.
No, Dr. Fleischer. Dr. Fleischer. She wants to ask a question. Margaret. She wants to ask a question. Go ahead, Dr. Fleischer.
I'm sorry.
No, well, what I was wondering was, every child does not feel success at a musical instrument. What happens to the ones who don't experience success?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. You know, what's different about Harmony Project, from what we're used to, middle and upper income families will get music lessons for their child, and it's a pretty solitary experience. It's a kind of a one-on-one situation. Harmony Project provides group music lessons. It's very social. It meets the social needs of the students. They begin in a musicianship class, and they all get instruments together, and they all learn together. The retention rates are enormously high. They work with one another, and we're not looking for talent. We're just looking for commitment. And every child who commits does learn to play. Some of them learn to play really, really well, but they all learn to play.
Mm-hmm.
Maxey,
I love the idea of just being learning in the
esteem is what's important. You're developing self-esteem, because when I have a master's in social work, I've studied some of this. When kids are in a bad, at-risk environment, anything that they can latch on to focus, and especially what you're talking about with music, is a gift from God. It's just thank you.
Well, you know, a whole lot gets said about self-esteem, but we want to be careful to stay away from that empty self-esteem stuff where it's self-esteem for self-esteem's sake. You want self-esteem to be for something real, for something they actually accomplished. And it's
Amen.
incremental skills building. It teaches kids to work on things over time that are hard, and they think that they're never going to be able to do it. And the next thing you know, they're playing in an orchestra in a holiday concert, and they surprise themselves. So for me, the most gratifying part of my work is to watch the kids discover the truth about their own creative capacity, because they didn't know it. Everything in the world of a kid growing up in poverty drives home one lesson hard, and that is that they and everyone they know and everyone they see is the effect of powerful others. How do you switch that over? How do you build a healthy citizen out of that kid? Well, I'm telling you, you take the time to teach that child to play music, and you continue to invest in that child and that child's peers over time, and you eliminate poverty in their minds and in their hearts. And once you do that, it can never return.
You know, I find this to be fascinating. You know, this is the first time I'm hearing this. I am trying to find a way to criticize it and not embrace it, but every time I try, it becomes very difficult. I want to challenge what you're saying, but I find it difficult to do so.
Well, you know, I think it's a good thing to go through life with a critical eye, and to always test yourself, and always we do it all the time. We're always kicking our own tires and making sure that what we do is valid and real. But I believe you have a colleague, Mr. Ben Carson,
Yes.
who is a neurologist,
Yes.
who would be able to speak to the plasticity of kids' brains, and we know that it's not easy to change the structure of your brain. It takes hard work and it takes disciplined work. But if you put in the work, you actually can build for yourself a more organized brain. And I know that you hear all these ads for like Lumosity and these other brain fixing programs, but the kids' brains are way more plastic the younger you are. So the interesting thing is that the same lab at Northwestern is doing a similar project with high schoolers in Chicago, who are Title I schools, low-income kids, who are learning music for the first time in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And they found the same neurologic benefits in the high schoolers, but it took 2 years for the high schoolers to achieve the neurologic gains that the second graders achieved in a Harmony Project. So, developmentally speaking, if we really care about closing the achievement gap between rich and poor kids, we need to start looking at music, at music programs, not appreciation, but learning to play music as an effective intervention that should go into every Title I school, every low-income community in this country at a young
that's
age.
The best news I've heard all day.
Yes.
And the reason I feel that way is that so often you hear, oh, in high school it's too late, these children are too old, they've already been formed, there's not much you can do. And what you're saying is that's not true.
It's not true, but if we start, the younger we start,
Of course.
the easier the job is for us and for them.
Oh, of course, it's much better to start young, but at least what you're saying is that, or what the study has shown, is that it is not lost. It is
Right.
It's not impossible once somebody reaches a certain age.
No, and not only that, but the neurologic changes, if they participate in music for 5 years, and the participation can be as little as 20 minutes of practice 3 days a week.
Wow.
Confers lifelong, the neurologic benefits are lifelong, and they include things like reaction time.
Oh, that's not what my music teacher ever said to me.
Well, they didn't know that then.
No, I know.
But
an hour a day.
but listen, but no, I mean, if you want to really learn to play, of course you've got to put in the time.
I never did.
But the reaction time, the response time of a 65-year-old is much slower than that of a 20-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But the lab at Northwestern wanted to find out what the reaction time of a 65-year-old musician would be, and they thought it might be somewhere in between. No different from a 20-year-old. It's retained.
Ah. You're full of good news today.
Well,
that's. I'm not surprised, but I do think that's very exciting news.
Alex?
I'm curious to know, going back to when you mentioned you had to make the students and the parents sign a contract to make sure that they do practice. I'm curious to know if any of the students decide to change their instrument, or if they, suddenly fall out of love with what they picked up and they want to try something new. Does that happen?
Well, we actually have a number of students studying more than one instrument. It does happen that, first of all, most of our students come from really, really limited backgrounds, so they don't even know the names of these instruments. They don't know the sounds that they make and so forth. And as they might start on a violin, and then they get interested in what's that thing, and what's that oboe, or what's that clarinet. And once they've learned to, they've been in the program a couple of years, they're already a musician. They're already reading music. And if you think about what they have to do to read music, they're decoding symbols. They're moving from left to right. And they need to play a whole phrase, otherwise it doesn't sound like music. Well, you've probably heard people reading so painfully slowly that they lost the sense of what they were reading before they got to the end of the sentence. In music, it doesn't sound like music unless you play a whole phrase. So you can see how closely what we're doing in music learning translates into reading and language skills. But yes, our kids many of them do pick up a second or even a third instrument. And usually they find peers to help them get started on the other instruments. And we do make the instruments available to them to take home. And when they graduate from high school, we also have a scholarship program that helps them go on to college. And if they think that they're going to continue to play the instrument as an adult or in college, we often give them a graduation gift of that instrument.
What do you find the greatest challenges in terms of what is it that parents should be doing at home in these early years that better prepare these kids? Because obviously you can tell a kid immediately whether they have the character of their parents, whether it's confidence, whether they are musically inclined, because it's really not about playing the music. It's about building confidence and learning other motor skills about these children. What is it that parents need to do at home that can make these skills more formidable once these kids get in these classes?
Well, we tell the parents that most kids, hardly any child enjoys practicing, but they all love to perform. So the parent's job is to be the adoring audience. What you don't want to do is make the kid go into another room unless the child wants to go into another room to practice. But if the child wants to practice standing next to you in the kitchen while you're making dinner, encourage the child to do that. And then applaud the effort, applaud the focus, and understand that it's a long-term project. That's the whole thing. It's incremental skills building. It's deferred gratification. It's learning to put things together over time, and it's also learning about yourself. There's a lot of strategic thinking that's involved. Nobody ever learns to play a musical instrument without coming to terms with their own strengths and their own limitations, and with their own nature, how to manage their own time. But it's encouraging the effort and the focus, and showing up at the recitals. You gotta show up at the recitals.
Music and learning. That's what it's about. Music and learning. How long ago did we discover this and the impact that it's having?
Well, we're just in the third year of this longitudinal research project out of Northwestern University, and they're just crunching the numbers now from the third assessment. The preliminary findings were so exciting that the U.S. Department of Education and the National Endowment for the Arts co-produced a webinar to broadcast those findings out to a large national audience. Unfortunately, the government shut down the server that is where that archived webinar, which took place on July 25th, is posted. But Atlantic Magazine's online magazine, as of yesterday, October 9th, has a long article about Harmony Project and the other neurologic research that's going on in different parts of the country involving music and learning. So what the sum total of this research, which is all really breaking news, what it does is, you know how they talk about, we're going to focus on the basics. We're going to focus on the 3 R's and so forth, and they cut the arts programming. Well, what we've learned is that for poor kids, music learning provides the foundation and the framework upon which an education can be built, without which they're not learning.
Stay there. We're coming back. Don't go away. We're coming back with some final thoughts. Maxey, Dr. Fleischer, Alex, and our guest, Margaret Martin. Don't go away.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sports shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org. Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
You know, it is true that people with musical learning styles learn best when taught using spoken instruction and sort of like auditory media. And these musical learning style students they have really good auditory memory and may respond well to jingles and rhymes to help memorize information they may otherwise struggle with. You know, I'm just sitting here thinking it through, and you know, I just never thought about it this way until learning this show today. And because musical learning styles, you learn about these different styles, and there are so many of them, and there are multiple intelligence, and these styles sort of refer to a person's ability to understand and process sound. And then, you know, Alex, that sometimes it becomes rhythmic and patterns and sounds and the relationships between sounds and the ability to sort of process the rhymes and other auditory information. You know, I never really thought about this because I never pursued music. I have a studio baby grand piano in my home, and every now and then every blue moon I may play it. But you know, a lot of people enjoy these musical performances and appreciations with the band, the choir, the orchestra. You know, what I'm thinking about now is that writing poetry or songs, that's part of music. And so these talented people sort of enjoy being surrounded by music and can appreciate many different types of music and sounds. I mean, I may just be an avid collector of music. I mean, that may be my thing. Alex may join a band or choir. Dr. Fleischer may just enjoy playing one or more instruments. I mean, and someone like Maxey, you may find her after this show humming or drumming out beats with her hands. All of these are creative, and all of it goes back to music, doesn't it, Dr. Martin?
Well, it's true. You know, there are anthropologists who believe that we probably that singing was more native. That singing probably came before language. Singing may have been our first language, and we do know that there's a huge link between rhythm, the ability to duplicate a rhythm, and reading. So much so that the sort of the quick and dirty test for kids with neurologic problems that are going to cause problems with reading is just play a music and get them to clap with the beat. And the kids who can't clap with the beat and can't continue to clap the beat once that music is turned off, those are the ones that are going to need extra work. But that said, if you focus with them, they can overcome those things because our brains and our nervous systems are plastic. It's just work, but it's a joyful work. And it was mentioned earlier by someone else that it's something that everybody is drawn to music. You know, I'll say, who doesn't like music? And I don't get any kids raising their hands. And it really doesn't, the genre of music doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be classical. It can be popular music. It can be rock and roll. It can be salsa music. It can be jazz. And the kind of music that we focus with our students is different depending on which neighborhood we're in. So we have, and we teach our kids to improvise as well. Before we end off, I'd like to let people know how they can get in touch with me if they're interested in talking about how to put together a Harmony Project program at their own school or in their own community. I can be reached at Margaret, that's Margaret, at harmony-project.org. It's harmony and then a hyphen project.org.
Dr. Fleischer?
I was wondering, just sort of to follow up on the question I had asked about some children who may feel that, well, they're not doing so well at music. Do you have is there any connection with other art forms that do this, or are you just solely focused on music?
Well, in order
poetry
to get
or writing.
We've had songwriting workshops during the summer, and we do partner with other community-based organizations. But the neurologic, this is a research-based public health intervention.
Yes, I understand.
And the data shows that hands down there are benefits for theater and spoken word and so forth, and those they're all great, visual arts, dance, but so far the impact in terms of boosting a kid's ability to learn anything and the habits of mind they need to lead successful lives, music learning has so far trumped everything else. There's not a lot of data about dance yet. It's not really been well studied, so the jury's out on that one.
Yeah.
I want to come back to something you were talking about. It's not something I know much about, but I'm a little somewhat familiar with this neuroplasticity, and how experiences sort of reorganize neutral pathways in our brain. And how do you make these long-lasting functions change in the brain occur when you learn new things or memorize new information? And so these sort of changes in the sort of neural connections are what we call the neuroplasticity. I was thinking, I was looking at my iPhone, and I love the camera. It's one of my favorite aspects of the iPhone. And I tell you, and I'm looking at the camera, and I'm imagining the film of the camera. You can't really see the film of the camera, but I'm imagining the film of the camera. And I'm going to pretend that the film represents, let's say, my brain. And now what I want to do is imagine using my camera to take a picture, let's say, of a tree. And so when that picture is taken, the film is exposed to new information. Anytime you take a different picture, it's exposed to new information. And so that of the image of a tree. And so in order for the image to be retained, the film must react to the light and change. That is why sometimes when you take pictures and the light doesn't go off depending on how much light you have outside, you have no picture, because it has to record the image of the tree in order to capture that, in order to retain it. So similarly, and this is the point I'm going to with you, and I'm just using this as an example randomly of what you're saying about this plasticity. And so similarly, in order for new knowledge to be retained in memory, changes sort of in the brain representing new knowledge must occur. Is that on point?
It is. And it's sort of like calisthenics for the brain. But you know, it's true, and we've documented it. Studying music, learning to make music, it helps kids achieve well in school and in life. But it also makes them more compassionate people, and it also helps them manage their own mood.
Well, it helps them feel. It helps them feel different things.
They tell us the same thing when they've had.
Yeah.
They're growing up in rough neighborhoods. They're growing up in the gang reduction zones of Los Angeles, or New Orleans, or Miami, and when they come home and they've had a bad day, they tell us, they take out their instrument and they play and they practice, and after half an hour or 40 minutes, they're okay again. Now, what is that? That's non-pharmacologic mood control. It's something the kids can do themselves. You know, we're in a world, we've created a spectator nation of people who, Americans spend their time and treasure watching other people do things. Harmony Project teaches kids to make music, to make their own fun, to make music from scratch. We also have created a drug-oriented population. Look at the commercials on television. There's a pill for everything. And if you start to give kids pills for their mood, that's a pretty slippery slope. And I don't think that's a slope that most families want to get on, because you're not helping your kids develop the habits of mind they need to solve the problems of their life on their own, and be responsible. They're reaching out for some pharmacologic crutch. But Harmony Project students learn to make music, boost their own mood, and carry on.
You know, Dr. Fleischer, I like this discussion. Obviously, there's something very appealing to me of things that I've sort of experienced early on. You know, I was thinking, I like this thing about the brain, what must happen to the brain in this plasticity, and also in terms of what she's saying with music, because let's just say, it's just with anything, and we don't think about this enough. If I were to take a coin, right, and I want to take a coin and I want to make an impression in the sand or in clay or whatever, in order for that coin to make an impression, that sand that I press that coin into has to also change. Everything in it must change in order for that to happen. And I think what you're saying about music presses the brain in the same way and stimulates the change.
You are absolutely right.
And the other thing is that when you were talking about other ways, or the way our society tends to help, and that's in quotes, children deal with their frustrations and anxieties and inability to control their own behavior, is by giving them a pill. I have seen that so far too often, and it is a terrible solution.
It's a tragedy.
It sounds so much more permanent, more productive, and more sane, really, to give children something that they can do,
right,
not that they can swallow.
Right.
Exactly. And it teaches, then they have something to teach their kids.
Yes.
If we give them a pill, what's the skill set that we've given them to teach their kids? To take drugs. That's it.
Yes, that's right. This has been good. Maxey, this has been too good.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
This has just been tremendous. I must tell you, it's just been really tremendous. And you know what? It makes you think, and it forces you to think about the simple things that you do every day and not put any thought into processing what happens when you do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly. We are what we do. Not what we say. We are what we do.
It's what we do.
Yes, this has been. I'm really excited to have learned about this.
Oh, it's been fantastic. Listen.
Well, keep in touch, and I'd like to come back on and share with you the results of the third year's data analysis when the team at Northwestern has that information.
You know what? It's such a blessing today because it's so rare. You have a Maxey, a Fleischer, and a Graham. It's so rare. I mean, the way you pull this together, it's so unusual. You don't understand what it is taken at the last minute, Margaret, to assemble this cast of learned people.
I appreciate it, sir.
And you can tell they have incredible brain power.
Well, they are, and you have a wonderful group.
They're an amazing bunch. I'm just so thrilled about today's show. I can't tell you what I'm feeling. I'm going to have Maxey, the Fleischer, and Alex wait a minute. Let us say goodbye to you, Margaret, and give out your webpage address again.
Okay. It's www.harmony-project.org, and you can reach me at Margaret at harmony-project.org.
Thank you for doing what you do, and I'm so glad that was your kid, that music had an impact on, and all of a sudden you said, wow, I have found my destiny.
It was definitely a calling.
Yes, it was a calling. We all need that clarion call.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Oh, Dr. Fleischer, doesn't it just gets better and better, doesn't it?
It sure does. This was a very exciting program. I'm very keyed into this because of a grant project that I had for many years, which I'll tell you about. We have no time to tell you about it today. Another time we'll talk about it.
Listen, Maxey, we just know this has been a terrific show today. I actually got excited. Huh? Incredible, wasn't it? Alex?
It was an incredible. I'm so in awe with the way the gang members just inspired her. Watching that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's why they call the little child, the children. That's why they're so special. Listen, Maxey, I could go on. I'm smiling like a Chessy cat. Because it has awakened me to something that I had forgotten about for a long time.
It sure does. I'm going to connect it to all the programs in my neighborhood.
Yes. Thank you all. God bless. Have a good evening. I look forward to Thursdays. Yes, I do. Look forward to Thursdays. Take care, everybody. Good night from the Armstrong Williams Show. Is it Armstrong Williams Show? Good night, everybody. Really
Everyone, this is Armstrong Williams on the right side. Don't curse, speak English. Virtuous society. I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey, Armstrong, get on the right side. Armstrong,
elevate your mind.
Armstrong,
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Yo, man, it's your boy KO. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up.